right. I'm going to get going. We might have a couple more people jump on, but I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. My name is Stacey McCann, and I am a licensed clinical mental health therapist. We're going to talk about unicorn space today, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about. It's just very hopeful and uplifting, and I really enjoy it. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I have just a little PowerPoint to kind of go along with this in the background. I welcome questions at any time, so please feel free to put those in the chat. I definitely want to thank Augie for hosting these workshops. I think that it's just a great service that they have for parents, that these are available, that they're free, that the app is so robust, and that it allows community support in addition to connection with experts. So I really appreciate Augie for that. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you the PowerPoint. And that'll help me introduce myself as well. Okay. Um, there we go. Okay. I do like to have the chat open as well, but I guess okay. I'll open it if I need to. So finding your unicorn space. We're going to talk about what unicorn space even is. Um, I will tell you a little about myself. Unicorn space, the briefest definition, and what I want you to just keep in your brain while we chat is that unicorn space is a pursuit that makes you interesting to yourself. It makes you feel like an interesting person. It makes you feel like you are a dynamic woman, a dynamic mother, somebody who is very multifaceted, who has a lot of parts, who is interesting, right? That if you introduced yourself at a holiday party to your husband's coworker, that you would have a lot of things to talk about because you are a very robust person. That's unicorn space and what unicorn space can do for you and for your day to day, but also for your goals for 2026. So I'm going to tell you a little about myself. Um, I don't know if you can see this part. I'm not sure, but my name's Stacey, like I said. I am a licensed clinical mental health therapist, and I specialize entirely in motherhood and in things like the mental load, mom rage, maternal burnout and overwhelm, overstimulation, anxiety, depression, postpartum, all that kind of stuff. I've been licensed since 2013. And I have two businesses. My main core business is present moment counseling services, where I see mental health clients for therapy in Missouri and Illinois. That's where I'm licensed. And then I also have a second business, present parent coaching services, where I see clients nationwide, technically worldwide, regarding attachment informed parenting support. So typically kids are 0 to 6 in that realm, and we work on parenting support from an attachment perspective, meaning we prioritize the relationship in the attachment before we prioritize behavior modification. So that's what I do. I'm a millennial, elder millennial, but I am a millennial mom to a 6-year-old. She would want me to tell you she's 6.5, actually. I live in Illinois, just outside St. Louis. I went to the University of Michigan for undergrad. Um, I launched my practice after the pandemic. I launched it because it felt like we needed to support moms in a lot of ways. And so that's what I wanted to do. Millennial moms are really who I tend to see most of, but I see all moms. These are some things about my background. I am a certified fair play method facilitator that will come into play as we keep talking. And I just have 15 years of experience working in this realm, working with parents, families, mothers, and children as well. So that's a little about me. You're welcome to contact me at any time in the chat before we go. And I also think in the page where my presentation is linked in the app and on the website is contact information as well, but I'll make sure it's available. So I really like this concept, and this is kind of where we get started talking about unicorn space. A mother's time is often productive, sometimes restorative, and I think of restorative as self-care, right? Sometimes restorative, like I plug in my battery for a minute, but rarely expansive. So I literally just came from a client session before this, and we sort of narrowed in that her word for 2026 is expansion. we had to kind of talk through what that means, and we'll explain that more. But unicorn space is expansion. It's expansion of who you are as a person. It adds layers, it adds identity, it adds vitality to your existence. This is not self-care. It can have a similar feeling to self-care. Self-care has been uh, capitalized. It's been kind of used and abused a little bit, very buzzwordy. And self-care to me at this point implies that you don't understand what I need, and also you're trying to sell me something. So this is not self-care. This is like almost like a next level to self-care. Um, so unicorn space, where this concept came from, there was a book that was published in 2022 by the same author as Fair Play Method. Fair Play Method was published in 2019. That's what I'm a trained facilitator in. And Fair Play Method is about sharing the mental and domestic labor at home. It is sort of a gamified approach. There is a game associated with it. I mean, I call it a game, but it's not like Uno, right? It's like a game that sort of lays out a system for sharing unpaid domestic and mental labor at home. Unicorn space, though, I actually like it for women and mothers specifically. I like it almost better. It's almost like the next step. But it really kind of talks about this question of what happens to women, mothers, after their time, energy, and identity are consumed by care and responsibility. What happens to them? What happens to all of their parts? Where do they go? And how do we get them back or develop new ones? So the unicorn space concept developed by Eve Rodsky describes like a missing category, which is pursuits that are not productive and not restorative, which we kind of just talked about. Creative, expansive identity forming. I think part of the reason it feels so applicable right now is that it's coming at a time when maternal burnout is really, I mean, really at an all-time high. Our grandparents, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, they also experienced maternal burnout, but there was a much different societal system in place at that time. I also think in 2025, 2026, we are combining maternal burnout with things like the push to be intensive mothering, social media, AI, and a lot of different factors, isolation, in which mothers are experiencing burnout without the systems that our grandparents, our grandmothers, and our great-grandmothers had in place. I think we're starting to question what self-care culture is. Like I said before, I think 5 years ago, if you had said you need self-care, everyone would kind of nodded and been like, yeah, I guess so. But now it almost feels insulting. When I'm telling somebody that I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, and they say, you really need some self-care. You need time to prioritize yourself. Just take care of yourself. Like, oh, okay, I know that. Where's the time? Where's the money? Where's the childcare so I can do that? So it almost feels a little insulting to be told self-care is what I need. But it's now being questioned as like insufficient. And also at this point, I think of self-care often, like I said, as somebody's trying to sell me something. Like they're trying to sell me, uh, a new protein drink like Mel Robbins is. So, and women are starting to push back against these narratives, right? They're starting to push back on the narrative that fulfilling my own needs is selfish, that I can find fulfillment in things in addition to my family and my children, that being a mom is only a part of me. It's not all of me. And that I can find fulfillment playing pickleball or cooking a three-course meal or needle crafts. It doesn't matter what it is. And then rather than just offering like self-care hacks, right? Like I'm not a fan of mom hacks. I'm not a fan of hacks in general. They're probably work in splintered kind of ways, very tiny ways, but hacks are very much band-aids, right? That this is about equity, not indulgence. This is about time equity, time value, core value equity, not indulging in something that is optional. One of our comments, Melissa, I don't know if you can, if it's Melee or Melly, but She said that even when I get a few hours of self-care, my cup just gets emptied as quickly as it got filled. And that it's funny you mentioned, no, I don't need to practice more gratitude because I probably put that on a slide coming up. That it's self-care is fine to plug in my battery on a day-to-day basis, right? I do need to eat more protein. I do need to drink more water, but that's not going to solve my problems. It's just going to help me get to dinner time. It's going to help me get through bedtime, which is great. And I need that. But also, I need a bigger picture here so I can feel like a person. I can feel fulfilled. Okay. Um, Self-care isn't enough. It is a component, but it's not enough. So, the whole bubble bath narrative, right? Oh, you just need to wake up before your kids. Great. They wake up at 5 a.m. So, you just need to practice there's what Melissa said, practice gratitude. They restore energy. Self-care restores energy, right? It's that battery plug-in. We all need that, but they do not expand who we are as a person. They do not expand our identity. That's why unicorn space feels like a next step or like a next level. Um, so unicorn space is not so much about recovery, it's about taking the next step and expanding. Um, Tying to maternal burnout, that um, it's a lack of permission and space is what we are. And we'll talk about the hurdles, like hurdles to developing our unicorn space. But really, when we experience maternal burnout, we're experiencing a loss of self, a loss of who we are. And then we're experiencing sort of this lack of space, mental, emotional, physical, and what feels like a lack of permission to be able to seek something fulfilling for ourselves. That's where Eve Rodsky and myself would tell you to write your own permission slip, which we would work on. And that's what I work on with mothers in therapy. It takes months and months and months and sometimes years and years and years to rewrite this in our brains because we have been told this since we were born that since women were born they should be prioritizing the people around them, not themselves. That girls should be seen and not heard. That we need to tiptoe around your dad's feelings because if we don't, he's going to explode. So girls are taught most of these concepts, these narratives since they were born. And so it can take rewiring, right? For even ourselves to prioritize fulfilling our needs first. Um, so let's talk about some of those barriers. Barriers to unicorn space. So obviously things like the mental load um, is a barrier, right? So if your brain is full, if your brain is full all the time with appointments, with the calendar, with planning, I consider the mental load, I have three P's: planning, prepping, and predicting is the mental load. If your brain is full of the three P's all of the time, there is no margin left to enjoy something. When your brain is full, you don't have the energy to be curious. You don't have the energy to create. You don't have the energy to strengthen a relationship. You don't have the energy to be physically affectionate with your husband. Weird. Um, there is no margin. There's nothing left in there for you to seek fulfillment, desire, curiosity, creation. Um, the mental load is extremely prohibitive to unicorn space. So part of unicorn space, and that's why it does go along with fair play, is that we have to also be advocating for shared mental load. And that's a different conversation. We've talked, Augie hosts lots of workshops on that. And last month, my workshop was on that as well. You can find the recording. But sharing the mental load has to be a piece of finding unicorn space because you're never going to find it if your brain is full all the time. Time inequity. I actually think looking at this PowerPoint that I probably should have split these into two different hurdles, two different barriers. Time inequity. A woman's time is often valued differently than a man's time. Women's time is often considered endless, that we can give, right, with our time. It is fragmented. It is optional. It is unprotected, that our time is not as valued. So, some examples of that are when our partners throw things into our laps at the last minute. Like, hey, oh, sorry, I'm going out after work. There's like a work happy hour. I'm going to go do that tonight. You've got bedtime, right? I guess. Do I have a choice? Doesn't sound like it. I was gonna go play pickleball, but never mind. So my time is seen as optional, right? That like it can change, it can shift. What I'm doing is not that important. So time inequity and time devaluing is a huge hurdle. And obviously you have to value your own time before anyone else will value it, right? So you have to see your time as valuable, protected, and uninterrupted in order to then advocate for your husband to see your time as protected and uninterrupted and valuable. But unicorn space requires that we start prioritizing protected time. Um, we can talk about what that means. And then this guilt piece. A lot of the rewiring that we do when women and mothers come to therapy is this rewiring that I am in maternal burnout and overwhelm and overstimulation and all of that because I'm doing something wrong, that I can't handle this. I'm bad at this. I'm bad at being a mom. I'm bad at balancing my kids. I'm bad at being a working mom. I'm failing in my career too, bad at all of it, and it's my fault. This is a personal failing. But I think of that guilt as a system around us, right? And I think of that guilt um, that it benefits the current narratives at play because it keeps us frozen. That guilt keeps us here, sitting here. That guilt prevents us from moving. It prevents us from um, creating change, and it prevents us from self-advocacy. So the guilt works in the favor of the current society's dynamics, right? Um, I also think that guilt has been driven into women and girls again since birth, right? That if something's going wrong, for the first thing I do is look at myself and say, what am I doing wrong? How am I a part of this? I'll just take it on, right? Like I would rather admit faults and like people please and say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll fix it, I'll fix it, I'll fix it, and then feel guilt about that, than allow anyone else to have any feelings about it because that makes me uncomfortable. So guilt as a system, and that if I can work on this piece that feeling guilt doesn't mean that I did anything wrong, and that this position I'm in right now is not just a sign that I screwed something up or that I'm bad at something, that maybe there is a bigger system at play. Um, And then we have this other barrier, which is identity shrinkage. And I think this kind of speaks to this concept of intensive mothering in I think I mean I'm sure it came out before 2025, but I really think the concept became more well known in 2025. Where, and really what intensive mothering is it is a little bit of like supermom syndrome, which is, back from the 60s and 70s, with this like second wave feminism into the 80s, that you can have a career and you can have a home life and you can do it all, but nobody's going to help you. So, really intensive mothering is a big piece of supermom syndrome, but it's combined with this like you have to create the best child possible. So you need to put them in all the camps. You need to attend all the classes. You need to spend money on all the stuff for them. You need to be comparing yourself constantly to everyone else in your community and what they're doing with their kids. You need to be spending time with your kids, lots of time, loads of time. Um, Direct engage time. How dare you be on your phone when you're with your children? How dare you try to work at the same time? They deserve you, your full being, your full engagement. And if you're not being fully engaged with them all the time, then you're failing, right? That's intensive mothering, this like push to be like, you have to be on as their mom all the time with money, with activities, and with your time. Part of the Surgeon General warning that came out in 2024 that parenting is like a hazard to your health, one of the factors in their data was that parents were spending more time with their children than ever before, which on its face sounds like a good thing. But underneath it, what it meant was that they were taking actually away time from themselves to do that. Because their time at work had not decreased. And in fact, their time working had increased. So their time working had increased and their time with their children had increased, but their time for themselves or in their relationship had decreased. That's one of the reasons that the data was pointing to parenting being hazardous. So when with this intensive mothering concept, that's where we get this like identity shrinkage. that we sort of lose ourselves in this process. Not sort of, we do lose ourselves in this process. And that's one of the most common phrases when people come into therapy that they say is, I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. I've lost myself. I'm just floating through time and space. Um, so, part of what we can do is think about, before I became a mom, before I became this overwhelmed, before I became the primary caregiver, the default at home, who was I? What did I enjoy doing? What was I doing? How did I spend my time? That's a good question, and that's very explorative, and it helps us see sort of where we might lean into. But I will tell you that what we end up creating for ourselves as mothers is not going to look like the path that I was on before I became a mother. It can't. You've shifted ambition and priorities, so it can't look the same. But that information can support where I lean. So one example of that is I have a client who is extremely athletic. She has a history of like playing college soccer, like, that's a thing for her that she values and prioritizes. Her children are all very athletic. They prioritize athletics and all of that. And so she's not going to go out and join a soccer team right now, right? That it can't happen. It's just like logistically probably not possible, but also like it doesn't fit into the way her life is running right now. She's three children. She works full time. So, but what we can do is take that information that a part of me is that I'm an athlete. Take that information and apply it to my journey right now. How can I reach that part of myself as a mom? And so she's running, right? Like she chose this sort of a running thing that she's doing. But how do I reach that part of myself that I know I previously was me, and feels very far away right now, but that intrigues me, that I know fulfilled me at one time? And what will it look like as a mom? Feel free to ask questions in the chat too, or make comments. I appreciate any participation. Um, so then that leads us to this question of like, what counts as unicorn space? And I sort of hate that question, because there's a lot of judgment on like what counts as self-care. And I don't care like what you do. And I'm certainly not judging what you do for self-care. I don't think the task actually matters at all. I think it's the feeling that you get from it, that matters. I don't care really what the task is. I feel like this argument comes up for me all the time with like grocery shopping, and that there is no way grocery shopping could be self-care because it's an errand and it's required. And I get that. But also, like, is grocery shopping self-care if I get a coffee, I have a podcast in my ear, I'm alone, and nobody's texting me to come home, and I can be leisurely walking around Whole Foods, dreaming of all the things I'm going to cook and make with all this amazing food. That sounds kind of like self-care to me. But it doesn't matter. The task doesn't matter. It's really like how you feel as a result of it that matters. And that's kind of where I like to go with unicorn space. It's how you feel doing it. So really the task itself doesn't matter. What I will say is there may be some parameters to kind of think about. It is probably not a task in which you are required to earn money from it. A side hustle, mom boss kind of thing. Those can often start as unicorn space, but the second you start adding a dependence on income to it, it adds this like pressure piece to it. So I think that that would be a sign for me that like maybe this is not going to be as fulfilling as it once was because now we're dependent on making a certain amount of money from it. Um, uh, this is kind of information from Unicorn Space, and they do say that like errands alone are not necessarily Unicorn Space. And I sort of agree. I think self-care is a different category. I think self-care is like the plug-in of your battery, right? So if I can plug in my battery while I'm grocery shopping, fantastic. But if Unicorn Space is about expanding who I am, then errands on their face are probably not considered Unicorn Space. Now, if a part of my Unicorn Space is that I'm learning how to cook, and that I'm learning how to, cook new recipes. I have a cookbook and I'm trying to work through it and it makes me feel awesome and I love it. Then maybe going to grocery shop for a new recipe could be part of that unicorn space. But I think errands on their face are probably not. Could they be self-care? Sure, but probably not unicorn space. Exercise you hate doing is probably not unicorn space. I just think that's funny because I do think there's like exercise that fulfills you and makes you feel good, and then there's exercise that like my body feels good, but I hated it. Like I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it. Thank you, Selena. So I think exercise can absolutely be unicorn space if it feels like it's expanding something for you. If you're growing a part of yourself. If you're doing it to check it off a list, if you're doing it to complete a plan that you don't really want to do in the first place, if you're doing it to win money at work, like I don't know that that would be unicorn space for me, but it's ultimately it's not up to me to decide. Um, Side hustles you resent, which is kind of the money thing. Okay, Melissa, and you tell me if I'm saying your name right. But I'm gonna
Yeah,
grab
you
your
are.
comment.
It's Melissa, and then I go by Melly.
Melly. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it says Melly, so I want to call you Melly. But I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I was saying it right.
Thank you.
Okay. I kind of resonate with your comments a little bit because she is mentioning that she like there's a drive to create content related
Hmm.
to this stuff, right? To support other moms, to get this information out there. Um, but um, and to be a content creator, then do you monetize it? Are you growing it? Are you reliant on the algorithm? Do you check your stats all the time? So I think it's really up to us to determine is this a unicorn space or not. And I think what's up to us is do we apply boundaries to this or not? I think if we want to protect it as unicorn space, then
Hmm.
maybe there's boundaries necessary as far as like how often do I check stats? Do I check them at all? Do I do I monetize this? Do I grow this? Is this going to turn into a job for me? And maybe that's okay, but maybe then we have to find something else for unicorn space.
Right.
So I think it's about like, do I protect it as unicorn space with boundaries or not? And do I protect it with boundaries for some time until maybe it is growing? I do want to monetize it, and then I shift it, and I shift it into work, and then I find a different unicorn space. And this is not to say you can't enjoy work. I love my work, right? Like I love what I do, but it's not unicorn space anymore because I'm making money
Yeah.
off of it, growing it, you know? Um, and maybe that's okay. So now I got to find something
Okay.
else. Have I? No, but I will. I promise.
Okay. That's really helpful. Thank you
Does
so
that make
much
sense?
for giving your perspective. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good. Um, but I think the key factor here is like you own it either way. It's up to you where you pocket it and where you put it and how you identify it. But it's yours. I love thinking outside of a lot of times when we think of unicorn space and we think of creation, we tend to think of like art, right? Or like needlepoint or sewing or and those are all great, but like unicorn space can be learning a new language, going to a sign language class. It could be advocacy, it could be attending a protest. It could be writing for yourself or something else. It could be attending an improv class, taking what speech classes. You know what I'm trying to say. Woodworking, learning a dance. Like it doesn't have to be the creation of something tangible. I know for me, a unicorn space that I have that I just don't always get to access is cooking. And I love to cook. And I don't love to cook chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, but I love to cook like grown-up food. And so like my daughter's 6 now, and so I have more opportunity, not as much as you would think, but more, to create like grown-up food. And so for me, that is unicorn space. I just don't always have time or ability to access it. But if I can, my goal would be to prioritize that and add that to my daily schedule, my weekly schedule. I think I'm gonna go into the next slide. Yeah. Um, because I really like I'll go over all of these, but the last one is like expected to be uncomfortable. Like especially if you're trying something new, it is going to be uncomfortable. There's this great concept with kids where with like independent play, which could also be its own workshop, right? But like when you first ask kids to play independently or like send the vibe that they should be playing independently, they don't want to, right? Like immediately it's like, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. And there's like this 5 to 10 minute uncomfy space that they're sitting in. And then if you can push through, and if you've sort of built this foundation for them, they'll after 10 minutes or so, they find something. It's amazing. Like they wander off and then they're playing. And it's like, oh, okay. That's what you are going to experience if you start like pickleball for the first time, or you're like, you start cooking and you fail. And you're like, I don't know, maybe it's not my thing. Maybe it's not. But I think if you can sit in some uncomfortable periods there, sit with a little of the guilt that you're going to have some mom guilt. We've talked about some of the reasons you will. Um, you will. And so you're gonna have to sit in that a little bit, hold that guilt and say that I have guilt for this, and it's okay that I do it anyway. It does not mean it's wrong. Guilt does not mean that you're doing anything wrong. Um, and you might be bored. And also, in the age of freaking iPhones, you might have trouble focusing. Like you might have trouble sitting and focusing on a project or a task, even if you have the time to do it. There's a reason that like when moms have 2 free hours, they sit on the couch and disassociate because they can't figure out what to do. Because we've lost the ability to complete long-term tasks as we're interrupted 24/7. And also, I think I've ruined my focus just for my phone. So I think there's also that piece that like this is uncomfortable because I find it really hard to deep dive into this thing. Um, but that again, it doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's uncomfortable. And if I can push myself to do it more than once, once is not enough. You're gonna have to do it more than once to really get a read on like, is this for me or not? But the first step before you can even do any of that is claiming this as like non-negotiable, that this is necessary. Unicorn space is a necessary time for me. It's not a reward. I don't get it for meeting 10,000 steps 5 days a week. I don't get it for eating protein for lunch, however many grams I'm supposed to eat. I get it because I'm a human being and because I'm a mother and because I deserve it. All human beings deserve it. And then I like this concept too that like the more self-assured I am in my identity, the more healthy mentally and emotionally I am and my family is. So that identity health is like really it's important, right? Not just for you, but for your family. So prioritizing this time as non-negotiable. Start very small. 30 minutes a week, 60 minutes a week, something small. If you need to fit it in during nap time to start, if you need to fit it in during like after bedtime, if your brain still works, my brain doesn't work past like 7:30. If you need to fit it in 5 a.m., well, it doesn't matter, but you keep it small, very small. Consistency is way more important than intensity. I don't care how often or how much time you do it to start, but if you're consistent on it and you're doing it like 2 to 3 times a week at 30 minutes, that's fantastic. Um, then we need to make it visible. So I might start it during nap time because that's the most accessible to me right now. Um, but then it starts to grow. And like I also have to do other things during nap time, right? So like nap time's great some days, but other days I'd like to do it like at 4 or 5 o'clock when my husband gets home. So that's when I need to start making it more visible if I want to grow it. I need to start saying it out loud, talking about it, and protecting it on a calendar. And this last bullet point here, which says trade time, we're not asking for permission. This is how I want you to go into conversations with your husband about it. I say husband a lot instead of partner, and I do that on purpose because a lot of these dynamics are seen in like hetero relationships, right? I don't have a lot of research on non-hetero relationships, but I do know these dynamics are present in husband-wife relationships. So I use husband a lot, but that's not just because I'm not being like affirming of other relationships. It's purposeful. Trading time. So you go into this conversation saying like, I've been junk journaling, which is another hobby that a client has. I've been junk journaling and I've been doing it during nap and I really love it. And there's a junk journaling group at the library and they meet on Thursdays at 5 o'clock. And I would love to be able to go to that. And so I would like to put that on the calendar if you can be home for that. If there's another night on the week that you would like to go to the gym or go see a friend or play video games or whatever you want to do, that's great. You let me know what day works best, trading time. But we're not asking for permission. I'm not asking, is it okay if I do this? I'm saying, I want to do this. The time is free on the calendar. You are a parent and you can watch our child. And I'm absolutely happy to watch them on Tuesdays while you go do your thing. Trading time. And then again, expecting discomfort for something new. And then just sort of to summarize at the end of our conversation, I liked this piece. You don't need more self-care, you just need more self, right? We self-care, in fact, I think most mothers have self-care. We're okay with it, right? Like we get it. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know when I don't do it. I know when I should do it. I know how to plug in my battery a little bit through the day. And if I don't, then maybe I get support in that realm too. But I think that a lot of us have the ball rolling a little bit in that direction. Um, we have a skincare routine. We've got a couple things in our corner for self-care, but identity is not there, right? Like I'm a mom who engages in a skincare routine, who has a couple toddlers, who goes to the library and who does toddler things and who works part-time and runs a house. But like beyond that, I got nothing. So that's where self comes in. I also like these are just like affirmations, I guess. 1 hour, one thing, 1 month. That's all I want you to start with. I know a month feels like a lot, but 1 hour, one thing, 1 month. Just pick something, try something. I mean, I guess we're talking hobbies, but like just pick something, try it. Um, and then I also liked what part of you is waiting to come back online. And I say back online kind of from postpartum, and maybe postpartum from like your oldest kid. So maybe like 7 years ago postpartum. But what part of you has been waiting and sort of like hanging out, waiting for you to access it again? And maybe it's a part of you that existed before children and you're going to access it a little differently. Maybe it's brand new and you've never had this part before and you were going to create it. And that sounds great too. I put this here as well. Again, you can access the recording and maybe the download for it. I'm not sure about that, but I'm happy to send this. These are five like journaling prompts related to unicorn space if you feel so inclined to write a little bit about it. Um, I like the first one because it says, before I became responsible for so many people, I felt most like myself when. If no one needed anything from me for 2 uninterrupted hours every week, what would I do? And this is not about like, what can I get done? The most that I can get done during that time. It's not about productivity. I probably should have added that in this presentation, and maybe I will, is that like a part of this process is redefining productivity. That taking an hour out of my 2 hour nap time to crochet is as productive as what I do in the second hour when I empty the dishwasher and fold the laundry. They are equally productive. Um, the thing I secretly envy other women for, and envy's not about like, man, I love her purse. Envy is talking about like, man, I love that she has the time to run every morning. I love that she has a system in her basement so she doesn't have to leave the house when she does it. What is the desire under that, right? What is the desire that's pointing to that envy, jealousy? Um, what am I, what's stopping me from pursuing this? And where does that voice come from? Is it myself? Am I talking myself out of it? Is it a voice I'm hearing from my husband, from my mother-in-law, from who knows who, from social media? Is it a voice from Instagram? Um, and whose voice is it? And why am I listening to it? And if it's my own voice, um, how did I get to this point? Why am I saying those things to myself? Why am I hurdling myself there? Um, if my child were watching how I live my life, what would I want them to learn? Your child is watching you live your life. It shouldn't say if. Your child is watching you live your life. And I think I have a daughter, and so I always think, what would I want her to do if she was a mom and like she was in this situation? I would absolutely want her to have some unicorn space. I would absolutely want her to have hobbies and to have things that fill her cup, to have self-identity outside of being a mom. Being a mom is a part of our identity, and it's amazing. But I am not in a place where I will agree that that is the only part of who you are, even if some women claim that it is. I think we are too dynamic for that, too multifaceted for that. All human beings, not just women. Um, okay, that's my presentation today on Unicorn Space. Here's my website and my information. I will put in the chat my email And you can find me on Instagram where I post stuff like this, and then my website. But I appreciate connecting with everybody. Again, you can find the recording of this. I'm gonna stop sharing. You can find the recording of this and contact me anytime, shoot me an email, just to chat. I'm pretty open for that. But thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And thank you,
Thank you
Melanie, for
so
chatting.
much. This is so
Yeah.
deeply appreciated. Take good care. I love this concept and I love those writing prompts, so I'm excited to dive into that.
Yeah, good. Reach out to me, whatever your preferred platform is or you use the
Yeah,
most. But yeah, let's connect there.
absolutely will. All right,
All
take
right.
good
Thank you
care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.